All right. Domain one. Domain one accounts for 34% of our exam. And it's all about designing instruction and assessment for all students. That's the overarching point, and it's standard one, 34%. You designing, planning instruction and assessment that is effective for the promotion of all students learning, all students mastery. And so this one is worth 34%. It happens to be the domain with which is weighted heaviest, which means it's the most important. And domain one is made up 100% of standard one. Standard one is so important that it again makes an appearance in domain three, which we just finished last week, and it took us several weeks to finish it. So as I spoke to some of you before, in planning for today, I think that we are going to only be able to hopefully get through just competency one, a very deep dive into competency one of domain one. And domain one is all about designing instruction, things we take into consideration and must know and apply in order to design instruction and assessment that is developmentally appropriate for all students, that it is appropriate for all students in every way, to their diversity, to their human development, to their language ability, that we're taking particular things into consideration. So let's see. Domain one is all about human development. It's the overarching idea connected to competency one, human development. And it is all about human development in that the teacher understands the human developmental processes. Why is this important? Because our students, whether they're kindergarteners or 12th graders, are little humans, little, almost, maybe they're going to be later adults. You know, they're growing and developing, and there are particular characteristics, indicative behaviors of different stages within the human developmental process. And it behooves us to not only know these things, but understand how to apply that knowledge of the developmental process of humans into our instruction, into our assessment and our activities. So the teacher understands human developmental processes and applies this knowledge to plan instruction and ongoing assessments. Notice how they say ongoing assessments. We do not assess just to give grades. We assess to measure the student's mastery within a certain objective that we plan for. We're trying to gauge and see what worked, what didn't work, what do they still need support in, and what different things can I do to support that student's area of weakness. So to plan instruction and ongoing assessments that motivate your students and are responsive to their developmental characteristics and needs. And so we've talked about many times, and I've highlighted different chunks here and in different colors because I think they go together. So understanding the human developmental process, and there's a lot to that. The human is a multifaceted being, right? There's cognitive, there's physical, there's social, there's emotional, there's affective, language development. There's so many ways in which a human can be developed. And we are to know all of the theories and all of the basic stages and practices with which to help through those stages. So you're to know those things and be able to plan instruction and assessments that also motivates them. Motivation is just another word for finding ways to engage them, knowing what they like, what interests them, what is possible for them or feasible, very important. And be responsive to developmental characteristics and needs. Some groups have other needs that different groups don't have. So middle age groups, there are different on that. They are a specific species of student. And people always say like, oh, middle school teachers, bless their hearts or whatever. I love teaching middle school. It's where I started. actually where I finished before I taught adults, like teachers, after middle schoolers, it was teachers, but I really enjoyed it. But they are very different. It's like it's leaving EC, the early child, and then getting to the adult, and then that awkward phase in between that needs support and particular things with which growth, for growth to take place. So, element of human development, child development, age group and grade level matter for designing instruction, for planning activities, for planning assessments. We plan different instruction for kindergartners, different activities for kindergartners, different assessments for kindergartners than we do for 8th graders or for 12th graders or for 4th graders. So know the typical stages of cognitive, social, physical, and emotional development of students in early childhood through grade 12. So K through 12. When they say cognitive, who are they responding to? That learning theory, human development. When they say cognitive, the theorist they are referring to, his name starts with a P and ends with a T. Piaget. Piaget is cognitive, right? The different cognitive areas of thinking. Then we have Erickson's psychosocial. Okay, so I left this here and I want for you guys to unmute yourselves. The state demands we are interactive during that we engage with each other. They really do. Just like the way they demand that teachers force students to work together. So it is our job to recognize individual developmental differences that are characteristic of EC through 12 and how that might impact planning, structuring of instruction. So I'd like for you to unmute yourself. I want for you to let's brainstorm. What are some ways elementary, what are some characteristics? We're just going to write the different characteristics elementary children. Cognitive, emotional, maturity, physical. Are they super coordinated in kindergarten? Yeah, are you guys there?
Miss Sauceda, can you repeat the question again?
Yeah, so what we're doing right now is we're just writing things underneath. Like right here it says elementary. So what is one thing that we know? I'll give you one. So elementary, they have very short what?
Attention span.
Thank you. Attention spans. What else is indicative of this students? Are elementary kids super good with spatial awareness?
No.
No, they're not.
No, they're not. Spatial, I think I spelled that wrong. No, maybe not. Spatial awareness. They're not. And this is very important because in the TEKS for PE, that's one of the huge focal points in kinder and first grade is getting them to just pay attention to their space, your body amongst other people in the space. Please be aware when you do a particular motion, how much space is necessary for that. And particular focus and activities are created to bolster that particular sense because there really isn't spatial awareness. And so you'll get kindergarten kids, maybe they're on the same side of the table. Well, he's in my space and they're in my space. And they might be because that sense of boundary and that spatial awareness is not yet mastered or built. What else? What else is sort of indicative of elementary students?
Social skills.
social skills. And what do they need? So they lack social skills, right? So they need support with social skills. Via what? How do we support them with social skills?
Via SEL, social emotional learning.
Social emotional learning, practice, right, in groups, in small learning groups, and procedures that are done consistently. Becoming routine. Procedures that are done consistently become routines. Routines help students also understand social cues. I have to raise my hand. I need to put I have to wait my turn. These are the steps to do these sorts of things, and understanding that there is like a procedures to it. So what else? Very important cognitive, and it's going to talk about it here, but I just wanted to do this as an activity that you would do with your students. It's sort of a prior knowledge sort of thing, pre-assessment, thinking about things before we actually get into some of those things. So what else? With Piaget's theory of cognitive development, what is one of the most important takeaways from Piaget that we apply in our classroom? Remember, it's via, no worries. Remember, it's via cognition. Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry. Oops. Our elementary students also are concrete learners. What does that mean? Concrete learners.
They have to have more visuals, more hands-on.
Visual. Yes. Visual, hands-on, tactile, kinesthetic, doing, not viewing. That's my saying, doing, not viewing. So for instance, within the manual, there's a particular question within the manual that's been around since ever, like, I don't know, since I've been teaching teachers to pass the PPR since like 2012. And that's been a question in the manual since that long, but it is still a good question. And it talks about a teacher in first grade that's trying to teach the students the plant life cycle. Like, what is the best, most appropriate, what is the most appropriate way in which to teach first graders the plant life cycle? And the correct answer is the most concrete way, and that's them doing the planting, watering, viewing, waiting till the next day, measuring, watering, viewing, taking notes. It's doing it is going to supersede. It's that tactile, concrete experience. So what is sort of characteristic of middle school students? They still have short attention spans, but they have better attention spans than their EC through 6 predecessors. However, something they need, does anyone know what they need particularly in middle school? They just have so much. It's a word that it's a word that I wish I had more of. They have so much energy. They need physical. Oh. They need activity. Sorry, guys. activity, physical activity throughout the day. They need movement.
Role playing.
Yes, role play, movement, tactile experiences. For some reason, within that middle group, even more so than like elementary, they need to like, there needs to be movement within.
They have to be more, I think, more small group.
Yep, a lot of cooperative learning. They're very social, lots of cooperative learning, lots of support with social emotional learning skills, goal setting, decision making, appropriate risk taking. Middle schoolers don't know these things because they're not taught at home at many times. And most of the time, like those soft skills are not taught to us in any sort of set curriculum at all. If we had parents who modeled good goal, making habits, good decision making habits and skills, that we learned those things, unless we had a teacher that forced us, that created learning opportunities for us to experiment, to practice building those.
Positive reinforcement.
Right. Positive reinforcement works really, really good with all of our students, but for sure, especially middle schoolers. Middle schoolers are dealing with identity and who am I, and my body's changing in a very weird and stark way. And not everyone grows in the same way. Like this happens so often where like boys, maybe they're 7th graders and they don't have their growth spurt, and they're hoping that 8th grade they have the growth spurt and they still don't, and to have people that were their same height be so much taller, they do feel uncomfortable, different, less confident, and that affects other areas. And we'll discuss it right now. If any domain is slightly off in their development, it impacts the learning of all. So let's say physically, they're just a little bit slower, right? I was a slow to develop girl, but girls don't really care about those types of things the way boys do. It seems, I'm sort of stereotyping right now, but it seems that it's in any event, oops, sorry guys. Middle schoolers are dealing with a lot. It's sort of like a tumultuous time and need that absolute amount of activity and support, validation, practice to make mistakes in a safe place where they're not, discouraged or demeaned. And high school students, their attention spans are much more developed, much more like that of your adult counterparts, but they also deal with a lot of stuff dealing with identity, dealing with like afterlife, high school type situations, peer pressure, bullying, drugs, all of those things. I'm gonna just take a picture of our thing and then I'll erase it for us. Yes, visuals for all of them. All the levels need visuals. Okay, so part of competency 1, which again is about human development, is you analyzing the impact of human development on your planning and instruction. So you should think about all the time ways in which the particular developmental characteristics of your students impact learning and performance, and apply your knowledge of your students to plan effective learning. Now, I'm saying of your students, for the purposes of this exam, this is one of those areas where I tell you, if they tell you an age group or a grade level, they are trying to give you a hint. They're saying there is something developmentally aligned to this age group or grade level where you should be doing something because it will impact their learning or performance by applying your knowledge of their needs in that area to promote effective learning. So understanding the changes, the physical changes in early childhood through adolescence, the factors that affect physical growth and their health, their physical growth and health. Not all of the students have access to adequate nutrition, like consistent food. You would be surprised with how many of our students have food scarcity. My first year teaching, when I was an intern and I had a supervisor and was with an EPP program, I had a student who was in my second period class, and we gave breakfast to our first period class. I had never given breakfast to my first period class until we had a benchmark. We were going to benchmark for the tax test and or TOS test at that time. And the students, we were all together all day long to test for that. So we, with our second period. And so that was the first time I was giving breakfast. So I gave everybody the breakfast, and by law they just brought a cooler and it had the exact number of food items that you had in the class and the exact number of like juice or milk items. And you had to sign on a paper how many people ate and put their names on the roster, and how many people ate and how many food items you were sending back. And those food items got destroyed at the end of the day. They didn't go back into the freezer. Sometimes it was like one of those crustable sandwiches. Sometimes it was something else that was like really non-perishable, but that was also could be warmed in an instant. So I'd always given my first period their food. My first year, never been a teacher before. I'm 20 years old. And I have a student come up and my second period and says, a sweet kid. And he seems so like soft spoken. And he said, Miss Sauceda, my first period teacher usually says that everyone eats in the class because my little sisters aren't in school yet and we don't always have food at the house. So like I had gone 3 weeks without knowing that my student lived in a situation where he at 11 to 12 years old thought about and worried about and tried to rectify his sisters who were not at school age yet, food insecurity. And I was trying to get him to write essays. So like there are things affecting our students' development physically, cognitively, socially, emotionally. And it's our job to figure out what's going on and find easy peasy ways to circumvent or support those areas of weakness. Nutrition, sleep, food access, prenatal exposure to drugs, abuse within the house, all have adverse effects on physical, normal growth and development physically of the students. Recognize ways in which physical development impacts the development of other domains. If you are not receiving the nutrition or the food access to develop physically, you are not developing cognitively. Cognitively is only one aspect of your physical growing. It's the growing of your brain, which we know needs to be fueled properly. The social development. I think to myself so often, the embarrassment that boy, he didn't have to tell one teacher, man, the stupid education sister. He had to say those words to 2 teachers. The first period teacher that he normally got breakfast with, and the second period when he tested. So just like the embarrassment that he might feel, and then what that might be like if other students knew about that, or how that might feel on the rest of his growing. And cognitively, I wouldn't expect for him to be as worried about my essay corrections when he needs to worry about his sister's ability to eat because they're not in school yet. So one domain of child development, and there's several domains: language, physical, cognitive, affective, social, emotional. One domain in peril affects the development of the rest of the domains. So let's take a moment. I thought I would, pepper our direct instruction with actual practice. So let's take a look and practice our testing strategies. Anytime we test a Pearson written question, and this is a Pearson written question, we know that they are a company above all that is meant to make money, and they're meant to be tricky. So we are going to be critical readers and analyze. We're going to look for keywords and phrases. Specifically, we're going to look for age groups, grade levels, special populations. We're going to look for the goal and try to, whenever possible, rephrase the question in layman's terms. Basic vernacular, not academic specific vernacular. So let's take a look at this one and utilize those strategies. A second grade classroom includes Javier, a student with severe visual impairment. When doing instructional planning for class, it is most important for the teacher to ensure that, okay, what keywords and phrases do we need to pay attention to?
Second grade.
Second grade. Anytime there's a grade level, we want to at least take it into consideration and measure it against our answer choices. Use that as a means of process of elimination. What else?
Severe visually impaired.
Yes, the visually impaired. So not only are they, we know they're in second grade, we also know that they're part of a special pop. So, and were they working on? What is the teacher's goal in this scenario?
To include. To include.
To make the class all inclusive.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
To
So
include.
severe visual and what instructional planning for the class is most important for the teacher to ensure. So we want to know, what is it most important for her to think about, for her to make sure that happen? Ensure means make sure, to make positive. And when they say most important, we know that they might have given us more than one. When they use the word most, to sort of get your sort of detective glasses on, because there's going to be at least two reasonable answer choices. They are able to say most important, most beneficial, most appropriate, because they've given you more than one appropriate or beneficial or important response, a reasonable one, but one is most based on the specifics that they've given us. Keywords and phrases. So let's take a look at these answer choices. A, alternative activities are available. So the teacher should ensure that alternative activities are available to Javier for class periods during which he may prefer to work independently. B, activities are organized in ways that allow Javier to participate with peers as fully as possible. C, activities implemented in the class use a limited number of relatively simple formats. D, activities de-emphasize the visual mode and mainly focus on non-visual modes, auditory, tactile, kinesthetic. What can we bet ourselves $5 is not the right answer? Like, you're like, that's not it.
B.
The first one.
A.
Hey,
A, what is this independent? Who can tell me what kind of laws we're breaking here?
breaking all laws.
All sorts of laws. So because we know he's special ed, because he's visually impaired, which means he's in the special ed program, we know that all students, especially special ed students, must be, it is mandated by law, that they're in the least restrictive environment for all learning activities. And so just making alternative, different stuff for them to do later somewhere else independently, that is not inclusive to everyone. That is not allowing Javier to participate in the activities that'll build other skills. Remember, it's not just about completing the academic activity. It's being there to be with peers. It's being there to be amongst others, to gather listening skills, all of that stuff. It's the whole child development. And so when you send away the child independently, you're limiting exposure and learning experiences that are held in the classroom. So A's completely out. What else can we eliminate? So we're left with B, C, and D. Activities are organized in ways that allow Javier to participate with peers as fully as possible. Activities implemented in the class use a limited number of relatively simple formats. Activities de-emphasize the visual mode and mainly focus on non-visual modes, auditory, tactile, kinesthetic. So let's just take D for instance, because it seems like we've come to like an impasse. Let's just look at D. Activities that de-emphasize visual. Is that ever best practice? And especially in second grade, where you would de-emphasize for the whole class for one student?
No.
No.
Would never. No. Second graders, I mean, kindergartners don't even know how to read. The bulk of their instruction is done orally and via pictures and videos. So, like, no, we would not de-emphasize ever. Visuals are a lifeline to English language learners. They are a lifeline to most special ed, just not specifically the visually impaired student. So this would not be best practice. Remember, domain 1 is all about you using your knowledge of human development in all the different areas to plan effective instruction and assessment for all students, no matter what the diversity. So the best plan for everyone. We're left with B and C. Which one gives us the best plan for everyone?
B.
B.
B. See this limited number of simple formats. So like nobody's asking the teacher to dumb down the formats because a student is visually impaired. Because a student is visually impaired does not mean they are cognitively impaired. They're probably brilliant. My one visually impaired student, it was a phenom. And right now is a phenom English teacher. I'm so proud of her. She was my past intern. She's amazing. She works in Austin. But that no, we would not ever limit ourselves to a small number of simple formats. That's not best practice. We're going to try as best as possible to organize our stuff so that Javier's participation is maximized in whatever planning, whatever assessment it is that we're doing. All right, recognize the factors that affect social emotional development. Because some people, teachers get upset and they say, oh, the students come to me and they're so rude. Rudeness is a lack of social emotional skills. You lack self-awareness, you lack awareness of others, you have there's a lot of skills that can be built. Social emotional development, again, there's not a set curriculum that anybody gets. If you're good at it, it's because the people around you, the models with which you have to look at and learn in life, we're showing those things to you. And many times our students are coming from situations where they lack development of social emotional learning, and it can affect, again, one area of development affects all areas, and especially social emotional development. I mean, even companies, Fortune 500 companies, say for them, it's not even important that you're the smartest in the graduating class. That's not what's most important. And if you're the smartest and you have low social emotional IQ, they don't want you in their company. They want you to have high social emotional intelligence and also be an expert and that's what they prefer. So homelessness affects SEL development. Lack of affection for sure affects it so badly. It affects even cognitive development. Attention at home, again, translates to lack of affection, lack of importance in someone's life. Parental divorce and the trauma that comes from that. family death, which is super more common after COVID, moving, which is also very common for our students and also with ELL students, especially beginners that come to us and they're moving from another country. That's very traumatic. That can affect and stunt social emotional learning, food insecurity. A student might steal something, a food item from the food candy shop because they don't have food where they wouldn't before. I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but it would prompt a student to break a common rule. Let me just go plug in because I see that I'm running out of my battery. A student's social emotional development impacts the development of all other domains: cognitive, physical, emotional, social, affective, all of them. Social emotional development, very, very important. Okay, a 6th grade teacher has been assigned to a class that includes students from a range of socioeconomic levels and cultural backgrounds. The students have varied school experiences with little academic success. Which of the following approaches at the beginning of the school year is most likely to help promote an active and smoothly functioning classroom? What do we need to highlight? What's important for us to pay attention to?
The socioeconomic levels and culture backgrounds.
Right. And so what does that mean? If you have a difference of culture backgrounds and socioeconomic, that just translates to what?
You have all different types of kids.
Diversity. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you said. Different types of kids is layman terms for diversity. You just have different people, diversity. So a 6th grade teacher has diversity in their classroom, and they have varied school experiences, little academic success. And we are looking for, at the beginning of the school year, whenever they tell you beginning, middle, and end, it's important. We do different things at different times of the lesson, at different times of the unit, at different times of the year. So which of the following approaches at the beginning of the school year is most likely? There's that most again. Most likely, we're looking to help promote active and a smoothly functioning classroom. So we want to help the students be active and smoothly functioning, to be able to function smoothly. So let's take a look. A, select 1 or 2 students each day to take responsibility for monitoring the behavior of peers and helping maintain order in the classroom until all students have performed this role at least once. Teach basic classroom procedures, routines, and expectations explicitly, including those that may seem self-evident, e.g. regarding materials, storage, organization and sharing, how to disagree with a peer, etc. C, send home a letter to parents outlining the broad learning goals the teacher has planned for the students for the year. D, have students do most work independently, gradually incorporating more group activities only as students show that they have adjusted to the classroom and its routines. Okay, so we've read all of them. We know that we're looking for the best way to have a smoothly functioning 6th grade classroom that's very diverse. So what's best practice? What do we know? Because we want to do process of elimination. What can we bet ourselves, $5? That's not it.
A is not it.
A is not it. They're 6th graders. We want the classroom to run smoothly, but the kids, that only 1 person or 2 people being in charge a day. What about everyone else? And like middle schoolers need to begin. Everybody takes accountability and all that stuff. No, A is not it. What else is not going to help the students be
D,
active?
C.
See,
D and C.
D, independently, having them do most of their work independently. No, First of all, most of the work independently means it's a silent classroom, and a silent classroom is not a classroom that is actively learning or acquiring language. It just can't happen. You can be assessing your knowledge in some way, possibly reading something, but you are not expanding or acquiring new language. It has to be listened, spoken about, written, and read. So no, D is not it. I heard someone else say C, a letter to the parents is going to make sure that the classroom runs smoothly. No, it has to be something done with the students themselves in order to help them help. Remember, help promote means the students are active, they can be active, and they can function super smoothly. B is the only one. Teaching them the classroom procedures, and this is important for all grade levels, but it's super important for sixth graders because sixth graders are like teetering still in baby land so badly, so much so that I never taught them myself. Like I was certified to teach ELAR 4 through 8, ELAR 7 through 12, and I only ever taught 7 through 12 because I just never wanted to do sixth or fourth or fifth or anything younger because I had small children at the time and I had more than enough at home, and I wanted to pontificate about literature in a sort of sophisticated way. But sixth graders, all children need procedures. High schoolers need procedures. What do I do if Miss Sauceda's out and I want to turn my book in and get a new one off the class library? There's a procedure for it. And that procedure becomes routine after it's done so many times. And procedures and routines are not just important developmentally for like early child and middle school and high schoolers, but for specifically early child and middle school, sixth graders, intensely needed because they're still part of the EC lumped together with the early child. They need that the structure, the routine, the predictability, especially our ELL students, especially our special ed students. So there is going to be content specific material that is difficult. They doesn't need to be difficult to figure out how I get my materials or what to do next. That should be just very expected and sort of work like seamlessly. The expectations are expectations means like, what is it that I expect of you today? Today, I expect of you guys to be quasi experts in human development and sort of thinking about the way human development affects the things that we do in our classroom. Sixth graders are going to be working in more cooperative learning groups where they're going to have discussions where they're going to disagree with a peer, and how to disagree with a peer is going to be something that you should help students understand. Teach the basic procedures. A great way to do that is to give them a role play, like to give them a script, put them in groups, give everybody a part, and then have them read and like have it, play out and be effective, and have areas where it's ineffective, and then have everybody, have different groups read the same script and then come back and say, okay, everyone that played this part, like, what did it see, or like what really worked about the activity, and what things were done by a partner that didn't work out. And those ways are really good about teaching them how to disagree and what's inappropriate for cooperative learning groups. And at the sixth grade level, it's so very important because they're going to be doing infinitely more cooperative learning activities, 7th, 8th, 9th. I mean, the majority of them. So they really need to learn how to get along, share, disagree, all that jazz. Use your knowledge of cognitive stages for planning. And we sort of talked about that briefly before when we talked about the question on the Pearson manual regarding first graders learning the growth of a plant. So use your knowledge of the different cognition stages, the different stages of development in cognition. So for instance, recognize the changes from early childhood through adolescence. One example is, which we spoke about, the emphasis of concrete thinking to the emergence, and then it begins to emerge in the middle areas. And then we refine it in the high school areas of abstract thinking, which is why when we're doing math lessons even in the 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, we have to use manipulatives, visuals, because much of math, the concepts is abstract, and their brains cognitively are still on the concrete level of learning. And so in order to have them master things that are abstract, we have to bring in supports like manipulatives and scaffolds that help illustrate that abstract concept. Increased ability to engage in reflective thinking the older they get, and with more practice and activities that engage them, they're able to reflect, what was my participation in this group? What was my effort on this project? Did I achieve my goals? Reflection on their thinking. It is a foundational skill for them being a lifelong learner, because they have to on their own reflect. Did I understand that? Did I really do really well? So we want for them to increase that, but they begin to get an increase as they get older. Like when they're really young, they're going to not really reflect on how they did. Kindergartners, di que te fue bien, say that it went well for you, and that's it. I did it and it's done. But as they get older, and we provide opportunities for them to practice, increased focus on the world beyond them, not just a focus, but recognition. And that recognition of the world beyond the school and their families, and that importance of it, and that looming outside world, the more that we need to make connections to learning and how it is connected to the world beyond the school. Because more as they grow, they're developing cognitively and becoming ever more aware of the outside world and how it affects them. And so making connections to any content specific knowledge and skills to the world around your students is going to actively engage them and set off alarm bells in their neurological pathways. Plan developmentally appropriate instruction. When you see the words developmentally appropriate in your exam, you need to think, what age group is this? Early child, middle child, or older child, older adolescent? And how can I best help promote the student based on where they are in the development of the human? Development in any one domain, cognitive, physical, language, otherwise, impacts development in other domains. Even if their language is not underdeveloped, will it impede other areas? Absolutely. Their ability to socialize, their ability to express emotions, thereby getting, frustrated, so many things. A 4th grade teacher develops a series of questions as part of a thematic reading unit on the seasons for a class. Which of the following strategies would the teacher use to effectively apply universal design for learning guidelines while gathering information from students about their prior knowledge on the topic? Okay, what is this question asking us? What keywords and phrases are important?
Fourth grade.
4th grade for sure. We have a series of questions. We have thematic reading unit. What is thematic? What is a thematic reading unit?
Like a theme, right? So their themes are the seasons.
Right. The theme is the season, right? It's all about the season. So all of the readings that we're going to do, poems, articles, whatever, it's all going to be about the seasons. And there's going to be a series of questions. And the question is asking us what strategy we should use to implement universal. Universal design for learning means for all. Universal is for everyone. And the goal of Domain 1 is planning instruction and assessment that is effective for all students. Universal design for learning happens to be my favorite lesson plan design. My least favorite is the Madeline Hunter. But just like I kind of feel like the other ones are all meh, except for the UDL, because it really just takes into consideration like where your students are at, developmentally, skills wise, like across the board. We're looking for the way in which to gather information from our students about prior knowledge. What is prior knowledge? What's prior knowledge?
Things they've learned before the lesson was being taught.
Yeah, stuff they know about the topic, right? Prior knowledge is anything they know before about this topic. And we're talking about seasons here. So we are looking for which of the strategies will best be universal for all. A, projecting the questions accompanied by symbols and pictures and having the students respond by speaking or writing. Distributing a handout with questions for the students to read independently and answer in writing using a dictionary if needed. C, asking the students to use hand gestures to act out their answers to the question the teacher is asking them. D, having a representative group of students respond verbally to the questions while the other students use gestures to express approval of the sample group's responses. Híjole, D was something. Okay, is there anything that we would like to eliminate because we think it's just preposterous?
D.
D, having a represent, so only one group. The right answer on the PPR is never going to be an exclusionary answer choice. And this is only one group of students gets to participate. No, that can never be the right answer. We can bet ourselves $5. D is not it. What else?
B.
B.
B, distributing the handout with questions for the students to read independently with no help, answer in writing. They're in 4th grade, and then also use a dictionary if needed. Okay. B is out. I don't think it's appropriate, and I don't think it's the best for all of our students. Not everybody's an amazing bang up writer at 4th grade. So we're left with A and C. Projecting the questions accompanied by symbols and pictures and having the students respond by speaking or writing, or asking the students to use hand gestures to act out their answers to questions the teacher asked of them.
I will eliminate C.
Yes,
Yeah,
C
it's
is
gonna be A.
preposterous. We're doing gestures, we're playing gestures. No, we're not playing what is that game that you play where you act it out and somebody has to guess what you're acting out? That's not what we're playing. This is the best way. And what this does really is that, like, you have 4th graders, not everybody's on the same like reading level, writing level, but it's about seasons, which is science. And this speaking and writing allows 2 different ways to be assessed. Like, there's symbols, there's pictures, the teacher's explaining it, and I can either speak or write to show you what I know. And that does justice to more students than any of the other answer choices. Okay, you must, and we're still with competency 1, guys. I'm sorry, stay with me here just a few more minutes. I know we only have 2 minutes left until 7:30, but I think we're almost done. Recognize developmental delays in early childhood through 4th grade. Problems in reading and writing, problems in speaking, problems with math, poor memory, problems paying attention, trouble following directions, clumsiness, trouble telling time, problem staying organized, difficulty with peers, speaking like a younger child, using short, simple phrases, leaving out words and sentences, having a hard time listening, problems dealing with changes in schedule or situation, problems understanding words or concepts. So any of those things might be red flags for you to seek intervention or support from campus leadership. Recognize the importance of play. I want you to take a look at this picture off to the side. Types of play for children. We have unoccupied up here, solitary, onlooker, parallel, associative, and cooperative. So Unoccupied is like children are relatively still, they're just by themselves, their play is not organized. It's like, oh, this is here, and then think of an infant sort of crawling around on the floor. They find one thing and then they see something else and they're crawling over there, and no one or nothing has their focus fully. It's unoccupied. This type of play builds the foundation for the other types of play. Unoccupied play looks like babies or young children exploring materials without any organization. Stage allows for children to practice manipulating the materials, mastering self-control, and learning how the world works around them. Solitary play, they entertain themselves without any social involvement. Like they don't need someone else to help them. And this is normal of a student. Children in solitary play may not notice or acknowledge other children. Adults sometimes worry about children who are playing alone, but actually solitary play is absolutely normal. When children engage in solitary play, they're able to explore freely, master personal skills, personal space, new motor skills, cognitive skills, and prepare themselves to play with others. Onlooker play is a little bit different. The children who sit back and engage like by watching other people playing, like just viewing. The active part of their play is the watching of people. They're just observing, listening. Sometimes it's easy to think that children engaged in the onlooker play are lonely or scared, but it's just actually a normal part of development. They're just observing, like so that child might be modeling something that they've never seen done before, or new way that it's being done, or they're just people watching. Adults do it, and children do it too. They learn a lot about social rules, social emotional development by playing and by their relationship building. They explore different ways of play using materials and the world in general. Parallel play, again, right here, this occurs when children play next to each other, but they're not really interacting with each other at all. But associative play, they're again next to each other. However, they do know and are interested, like, oh, what are you building over there? Oh, that's cool. Can I borrow that block? Like they know that they're there. Parallel, they're just working next to each other, doing the same task kind of nicely, maybe going over at each other. Associative is kind of like talking to each other, and cooperative is the last stage of play. And that's where they're like cooperative group efforts. Like there's a focus, there might even be group rules or goals that are established. And obviously the cooperative is the last stage of play development. And that's where we stay, right? We stay in that cooperative learning. We try to build activities, and the more that they can mimic play, the better and more engaging for our students. Healthy problem solving, healthy expressions of emotion, building of social emotional skills. Play cannot be under emphasized, like just cannot be under emphasized. Okay, a fourth grade teacher has students read about famous figures from Texas history and then takes the class to see a play about the life and times of Davy Crockett. Taking the class to see the play will best accomplish which of the following objectives? So this is play not in the same way the word is being used, but still playfulness of the content within the instruction. So what are the keywords and phrases that we are to be paying attention to?
Fourth grade.
Yes, the grade level.
Okay, grade level, fourth grade. All right, what else?
Texas history.
Texas history. What else? What's important for us? Like, what are they asking about? What's happening, and what are they asking about? So we know it's fourth grade teacher, Texas history. And so what's happening here?
They're going to see a play.
Thank you. They're going to see a play. And like, taking them to see the play is going to do what? Here's best and most. It's going to accomplish what objective for the teacher? A, enhancing lessons in social studies through a culturally relevant theatrical event. B, creating critical consumers of theater arts through an evaluation of historical fiction. C, having students use social studies skills to compare and contrast primary and secondary sources. D, having students recognize the influence of theater on historical events. Now, given what we know about play and engagement, what would be the most reasonable objective we're trying to accomplish here as a fourth grade teacher taking our students to a play? What can we bet ourselves $5 is not the right answer? That's not what this teacher is looking to accomplish.
Letter B.
B.
Critical consumers. They never said anything that she taught them about like critical analysis or criticism of the theater. So no, they're not going to become, theater critics after this event. That's not the main objective. What else can we sort of pretty reasonably bet ourselves that's not the right answer?
Letter C.
Having students use social studies skills to compare. They're not comparing and contrasting primary and secondary sources. Like they're doing Texas history figures, Davy Crockett. Like a primary source would have to be like something that they said, like that they wrote or they said, and that's not what's happening here. So that's not it. What else?
I think D.
D. You're right. And so the main point is enhancing the lesson, engaging the student. Fourth graders, they love play. Their attention is not super big. Like, what better way to enhance their understanding than to take them to visualize a play? Please remember that for the purposes of this exam, you live in utopia. And you reside and work in Utopia ISD and Utopia Elementary, Utopia Middle School, Utopia High School. And so that means that it's the perfect world scenario. Theoretically, a fourth grade teacher can do this. Take their teachers to, the play to enhance the lesson of the text, which would be amazing to do. Use your knowledge of developmental characteristics and the needs of students in early child, EC, through fourth grade to plan meaningful, integrated, and active learning and play experiences that promote the development of the whole child, all of it, cognitive, physical, emotional, social, affective, language. Set and keep high expectations for all students. I don't care if they're ELLs. I don't care if they're special ed. We do not decrease expectation. We increase supports that are available, scaffolds available to achieve mastery of the objective. Never a decrease in expectation. Recognize the importance of positive and productive classroom environment. If your classroom is not positive, it can't be productive. And if it doesn't have routines, it can't be productive. And procedures. Create a culture of excellence. And you do that by setting high expectations for all students and promoting equity throughout the learning community. Like no one's better. I don't care if you're the judge's son or daughter, or you're the football quarterback, or you're the head cheerleader, or you're the gang member. Everyone has equal access to success in my class. And it is literally my job to ensure all of them are successful. My success is contingent upon theirs. So I certainly promote equity throughout the learning community. And exhibit development responsiveness. Pay attention. Are they growing? Do they need more? Development responsiveness. Paying attention to where they are. Okay. Miss Martinez. Actually, guys, do you want to continue? Let me show you how many that we have to finish So this to finish competency 1 and those questions, and then so actually it's kind of a few. Y'all want to save this for Saturday and we'll do this and competency 3, or do you want to continue trailing on? It's about 10 slides, guys. We'll be here for a good while.
I say save for Saturday.
Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday. Okay, my vote's Saturday. So we will adjourn for the evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me take a screenshot of my participants because I found a go around for me having to write everybody's names. I just do this and I just do a screenshot and I go and give everyone credit. Okay, so everyone has been documented for attendance. And thank you so much for attending. And I will see you guys on Saturday. We will continue with the rest of competency 1 and then get into competency 2, which is also a really big one. It's about diversity and it really gets into the nitty-gritty. ELL supports differentiation of instructions, special ed, like just the whole gamut of diversity is competency 2. So that's what we'll get into once we finish up competency 1 on Saturday.
Ms. Sauceda, quick question.
Yes.
I know you mentioned that there's other like supplemental videos I can watch. Where can I find those?
I'm sorry, what was it that question?
Oh, because you said that you have other videos I can watch, like to supplement like the studying.
Absolutely. Yes. I will send you those.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I know I just want to take the test here pretty soon, so I can be ready for it.
For sure. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sounds good. I will see you guys next week. No, not next week. Saturday. You guys can I have a Zoom meeting with you? Yes, you can. I'm available from 9 to 11 for office hours every Tuesday and Thursday. And those, like, guys, just check my calendar. You can see that. But I also have 30-minute appointments, and you can also check the schedule. And those are peppered throughout the work week. But certainly I'm available for a one-on-one session. Any other questions? Hello?
Nope.
Oh,
Okay.
we're good.
Sounds good, guys. Y'all have a beautiful rest of your week, and I will see you Saturday morning.
Thank
See ya. Thank you
you.
so much.
Okay. Bye-bye, guys.